all the candidates of the Barbados Labour Party have just paid the deposits which are required for nomination on Monday. Clearly, we have a united team. You can see how we have been turned out, and there is a measure of discipline. I want to set the context this afternoon. On Monday evening, the Prime Minister spoke to Barbados, and she gave the background to her thoughts and the thinking on why she had decided that it was time to have a general elections in Barbados. Since then, there have been a number of comments. We've heard that it is described by the opposition as being a panic because of COVID. It's been described as because we are disunited. And indeed, we've heard the leader of the opposition describe it as reckless. First of all, in terms of the parody about us not being united, clearly you can see that for yourself, that we are totally united. And we are not disputing at this stage. And we are united behind one leader. We are not deciding who is to be president and who is to be political leader. We are clear. So I discard that. We move on now to the issue of being reckless and panicking because of COVID. And today I need to set some context. Since March 2020, the world has been faced with a pandemic. There have been 4 phases. The initial phase, there's been Alpha, there's been Delta, and now there's Omicron, the 4th phase. This has happened globally. In this time, there have been elections held throughout the world, in the great United States of America, in the United Kingdom, in Canada, and in this region we've had elections in Suriname, in St. Kitts, in St. Lucia, in Trinidad, in Jamaica, in the Bahamas. And indeed here in Barbados, we had a by-election last October, and all of these parties participated, and there was no talk about recklessness. They were out in their numbers. 1 year later, things are different. Then we had no vaccine. Now we have varieties of vaccines available. More than 65% of our population has been vaccinated. So obviously conditions have changed. In terms of the virus, we all know pandemics. They have phases and then they peter out and they become endemic. The Spanish flu lasted for over 2 years. Interestingly enough, and you all perhaps should look at the history of the Spanish flu, it had 4 phases. The last phase of the Spanish flu was less virulent, mild symptoms like the flu. And thereafter, no one spoke about the Spanish flu. It became endemic. You had the flu occurring. Similarly, that occurred with the Hong Kong flu in the late 1950s. This is apparently what is happening now. The initial research and figures coming out of South Africa, indeed also out of Scotland and United Kingdom, and you are listening to the news, that this virus, though spreading rapidly, is less virulent. When I say virulent, less dangerous, less aggressive than, for example, the Delta virus. It is moving and it's like akin to a flu. That is what you're experiencing. You're having high numbers because we are testing for COVID. But one doesn't normally test for the flu. We don't screen people for the flu normally. And this is essentially where it seemingly is going with this new variant. The good thing about it, in addition, is that because of the rapidity with which it is multiplying, it allows persons to develop an additional, those who've been vaccinated get an additional normal, natural immunity from the virus. Those who have not been vaccinated, like some here, if they get Omicron, they will develop natural immunity too. And this natural immunity defends them against getting Delta the variant subsequently. So in other words, this virus, with its weak symptoms and often asymptomatic, nullifies the effects of the Delta virus. So it seemingly in the long run could be a good thing, and it could lead to the end of the COVID pandemic globally. And we all hope and pray for that. I should tell you that viruses, as they go through mutations and variants, do so in order to survive. So hence they become less virulent. If a virus is going to cause death in 100 out of 100 persons, the virus is not going to survive because it dies with the person. viruses want to continue. So as they go through mutations, they tend to become less virulent. And that is the situation where we are. In addition, I think we all recognize the disruptions from the various lockdowns, and indeed, as part of life and living, social interaction is essential. If there's not adequate social interaction and social life activities, we are going to get issues with mental health, severe issues. And I dare say that I haven't seen the empirical evidence that we are having this in Barbados and globally. People need to socialize. People need to have a social active life again. And we are saying that in this circumstance, we think that with Omicron, there's no need for us to panic. We need to be cautious, take the necessary precautions.